The next thing I do is like to welcome our ambassador for the day, and we've got David Hall, OAM, sitting here at the moment. And just very briefly, David will tell his story, but just very briefly, I think it's fair to say that David broke new ground for wheelchair tennis and wheelchair tennis players in this nation. David was the first world number one from Australia, so straight away that's breaking new ground. He spent almost 10 years as world number one in wheelchair tennis. That's pretty impressive. But just to add to that, he's also got a Paralympic gold medal. Either of those two achievements would be significant on their own. To have both of those achievements is fantastic. But when you look at people like the Australian of the Year last year, Dylan Alcott, I think it's fair to say that people like Dylan would not have been able to achieve what they achieved without David breaking the ground for making wheelchair tennis something that was on the horizon for Australians. So I think David's got a very special place in Australian sporting history. But again, enough from me. I want to hear what David's got to say. So please make David Hall welcome as our ambassador for the day. Thank you, David.
Thank you, everybody. It is fantastic to be here. Distinguished guests, my fellow Australians, it is my great pleasure to be here as your Australia Day ambassador, and I would like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of this land, the Wiradjuri people. The 26th of January, what does this day mean? Through over more than 200 years of debate and controversy, this day has marked the Australian National Day since that date way back in 1788, when formal possession was taken of the colony of New South Wales. So what does it mean to be an Australian? Well, it means something different to everybody. Everybody has their own story and history, and we should respect the view that Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders regard this day as a day of mourning, of survival. But it is also a day to come together and instill the values that we share as an Australian community, such as the value of helping our fellow citizens through their adversity, which unites us and utilises our greatest strength, the power of community spirit. It confirms that we are, in the long run, part of a family that just happens to have over 26 million members. Now, today means to never forget or take for granted our freedom, which comes at a heavy price to those who have fallen before us. We are a nation of people that will work hard, but we also know how to play. We love our barbecues. We love chatting with our neighbours over the back fence. We love meeting our friends down at the park so that our children can play. We are a social nation. We love our food, enjoying everything from chicken schnitzels to meat pies to Chico rolls to custard tarts to lamingtons. And this is all making me pretty hungry, I have to say. Now, when the music group Men at Work sang the famous line about the Vegemite sandwich, tourists have been fascinated, and you could honestly say some repulsed, by our national breakfast spread. We love the arts. We've enjoyed iconic movies such as Gallipoli and Mad Max, and the music of In Excess, Midnight Oil, and Slim Dusty. Now, it goes without saying, as a nation, we are sports crazy. And on the local front here in Dubbo, there are so many chances to play the sports that we enjoy. You can get fit on the water, paddling with the Outback Dragons. You can visit the sand traps at Dubbo Golf Club, or even give ultimate frisbee a run down at South Dubbo Oval. Now, for me, I had the pleasure of travelling the world for 15 years as a professional wheelchair tennis player. Now, the wheelchair tour, well, it was like a travelling circus, going from one town to the next. Now, you could say that tennis is primarily an individual sport, but there were times when we had the chance to technically represent Australia at the World Team Cup or the Paralympics. Now, I won gold at the Sydney Paralympics in 2000, and I've never felt more proud being an Australian when I was on top of the medal dais with the flag being raised as our national anthem was sung. Now, as much as I enjoyed playing on the tour, meeting new people, eating different foods and visiting airports, hotels and tennis courts all over the world, I soon realised that we do live in the lucky country. Now, Dubbo has an interesting history. The settlement was gazetted as a village in 1849, and land sales grew due to the gold rush trade through the 1870s, which brought the population to around 850 residents. Now, there was a general store ran by a Frenchman and a hotel operated by a Belgian. And by 1881, the railway line had been built between Wellington and Dubbo, and the town boasted 29 hotels and 3 breweries. Now, 142 years later, in 2023, Dubbo and its surrounding towns has a population of around 55,000, with big industry being an economic driver, such as the regional livestock markets with more than 1 million sheep and 200,000 cattle sold each year. And the Western Plains Zoo with over 300,000 visitors each year. There are walking trails, museums, the old jail, the art gallery and the botanic gardens to visit, plus plenty of shopping districts to scratch that retail itch. But whether we live here in the country or on the coast, as a nation, we are bound by a common thread that today is a day to spend with our fellow citizens, our family, and our friends. It is a day to think about our future and acknowledge that community spirit, to reflect on our journey and our achievements. It's a time to think about what makes our country unique and to embrace that. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here, and have a fantastic Australia Day.
Thank you, David. And David, you've talked up the region so well. I think you'll be moving out here soon. Leave that Sydney metropolis and come out here to a regional area. But as a token of appreciation, we've got a small hamper here with some local gifts, so that'll give you something to chew on while you're driving back home to Sydney. And just remember us by, and obviously the ambassador pin, the Australia Day ambassador pin. So thank you very much for coming along. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your thought you've put into what you've just talked to us about. So well done.